right? Man, that was so cool. There were over 80 of you that posted pictures, over 80 couples that posted pictures and stuff. We know there were more of you that did that didn't take the pictures and all that kind of stuff, but it was very, very cool to be a part of that. And I just want to let you know, that was a really exciting thing to do, and it was fun to see the pictures all that week. And believe me, I heard it from you guys, especially you guys. I got so many text messages this week. That week of that deal was like, oh, we took our wife to so-and-so. You went to Cancun. Thanks a lot. You're that guy and all that guy. I got all that, okay? And yeah, I am. So there you go, okay? But here's the deal. It was so encouraging because on the flight back, we're flying back, and I just get this amazingly discouraging text message. I'm having this conversation via text with a friend of mine who has a pastor buddy who's just imploding, and his family's being destroyed, his ministry's being just destroyed, and it's just this horrible thing. I'm trying to talk through him with this and everything all via text message, and I'm just hurting, so much for my friend in this moment. And then 30 seconds later, I kid you not, I get a text message from one of our staff people. Someone just got engaged on Refinery date night deal, and they posted the picture. Are you guys here who got engaged? Are you here? Yeah. Come here. Come here. Okay. Yeah! Okay, so we haven't met before. We haven't met before. Tell me your name?
Eddie.
Eddie and? Denise. This is so cool. Okay, so I told you guys a few weeks ago, I said, hey, we're going to draw a name, and I'm going to send you $100 or whatever. They're getting $100, okay? So you guys, right here it is. That's from Melissa and I. You guys, that is so awesome. Okay, woo, okay, very cool. That was just cool, okay? Now, so just in the midst of this heartache, I get this totally exciting thing, just the emotions of life, right? And the way that works. So here, after all that, I have a really big ask for you. 9 months from now, we're going to need some children's workers, okay? So some of you need to go sign up to work in the nursery right now, okay? Because we're planning on that. We're growing a church here, people. That's what we're doing, okay? So go talk to Emily out there. She would love it. Get your training. Get ready to start working in the nursery, okay? It's great. That got me out of breath. So cool. So over the course of this last few weeks, we've been talking about better and what it means to be better in our homes. We talked about all kinds of things, from everything can be redeemed to last week, Dr. Joe talked about us just having a very strong circle of people in our life. A family circle, a circle of people at church. We need people close to us that are walking along the path of life with us and walking in the same direction and doing the same thing. So we need those people in our life. Well, this weekend, as we talk about better, we're going to talk about one of the things that I believe is having some significant damage on our families and what we can do about it. These guys right here. Now, you guys would never know this, but the sermon title today is Glowing Rectangles. That's not something we advertise or anything. But these glowing rectangle things, well, that's my granddaughter right there. And so, yeah, you're just going to have to wait a second, okay? I'm just kidding. These glowing rectangles, they run our lives in so many ways. And what's going on now is so different than when most of us grew up. I'm so proud of a group of our church folks here. There's over 20 couples that are going through a technology and parenting class, a 4-week deal. It's been really cool to partner with them in that, see that, and just Melissa and I have been super encouraged by just their willingness to participate and just get it right and just come together and just say, hey, how do we deal with this? Been super encouraging. So we've been talking about this in that setting for a couple of weeks, but we're going to focus on it today. And here's where things get kind of interesting. When I was growing up, or when a lot of you were growing up, we didn't have those things. Now, some of you are sitting here today and you're like, oh, wait a minute. You're telling me there was a time there was not an iPhone. Yeah, I am. Okay? And everybody's senior picture was in black and white and all that. I get it, okay? But here's how mobile our phones were when I was growing up. It all depended on the length of the cord. Okay, that depended on how mobile your phone was. And everybody had a phone in the kitchen, right? With a cord on it. Now, have you had the long cord so you could go to like another room, or you could strangle your brother or sister with it, or mom tripped over? You know, some of you had short cords in the deal, and you had to sit in the kitchen to talk on the phone and all that kind of stuff. So that was a deal. You know, that phone was controlled. But then call waiting came along. We thought, oh, that was cool. I can just hit the button and I can talk to somebody else and go back and forth. And then some of you guys were rich and had like 2 lines in your house. So some of you had that. And then TV wasn't a deal. Media wasn't really a deal. We had 3 channels. 3 channels, and then you had those UHF channels that were just like wrestling and cartoons and stuff. But you had 3 primary channels. If you didn't like what was on, you go outside. I mean, that's what you did. So there wasn't a lot of real conversation about that. But then cable came in. It was like, oh my gosh, should we get HBO? You know, all those kind of things happen. And there more content, more things became available. And then gaming consoles came into play. Who are my Atari 2600 people who grew up? You can tell all of us because our left thumb is bigger than the right thumb because the fire button, you built that muscle, you know. There wasn't really a whole lot of mystery with the Atari 2600, not a lot of negative technology coming in there. But then PlayStations came in and Game Boys and now Nintendo Switch and these things have come in that have social media platforms in them, and we have to have conversations about that. Well, and I remember having conversations about the internet, and you know, when it started, you're like, really, who's going to do this? That is the most annoying thing. And why would you get on that? Because, you know, you try to log on to it, it takes 45 minutes. You got to download that CD that comes in the mail, put it in there, and then you had to hear that noise, you know, and you're just like, what's happening here? What, is anybody ever really going to do this? Is it going to be a thing? And well, now things are different. And when we give our kids one of these things, all of those things are now in the palm of their hand. They got a phone. Now, that's the least of what they do because they don't call anyone, okay? But it's a messaging device. It's the internet. It's email. It's cable television. It's a recording device, a gaming system, all in this glowing rectangle. It's crazy. And there was a time, though, when we as kids were isolated from a lot of the crazy things that were coming into our life. And it was easy to protect our children's purity and what they saw and what they watched because there weren't a lot of options. And, you know, some of the worst things that we had fears about, like, oh, they're going to get a pornographic video. Well, they had to go back in the way back room of some video store or whatever. Or it was behind the counter at a gas station. Or it was difficult. It wasn't easily accessible. And now all those things are being carried around in our pockets. So we have some problems, but we also have some opportunities in how we deal with these glowing rectangles. And Jesus gives us a perfect illustration of what it's like in trying to lead through change. Now, Jesus didn't deal with smartphones, but he did lead through change. And in Matthew chapter 9, beginning in verse 16, it says this. This is from the New Living Translation. And this is all on your Untech bulletin today. Okay? Besides, who would patch old clothing with new cloth? For the new patch would shrink and rip away from the old cloth, leaving an even bigger tear than before. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the old skins would burst from the pressure, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine is stored in new wineskins so that both are preserved. And what that's saying is, there's a new patch of technology right now. And old parenting styles will not work with this new technology that's involved. because this new technology will burst old parenting techniques. It just doesn't compute. Too much has changed too fast, and too much is at stake. So we got to come up with some new methods. Now, we all have these desires to see our kids grow up and be godly kids. And hopefully we share those principles. But the methods and the approach in which we do that have to be drastically different than our parents did with us, or some of us have tried to do with our children now. So what do we do? Well, God gives us a clear instruction on how we're to live our life and how we're to parent our kids. It says this in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. We want to guard the hearts of our children. We want to make sure we're putting them on a right path. But in the same way, we need to model guarding our own hearts for our children to see. Because we know that our children will pick up more of what we do than what we say. And when we model those behaviors for them, it takes a lot more traction with them than if we just tell them what to do and then do something else. Now, there's a very scary link between social media and depression. I don't know if you know this, but it is staggering. Some studies indicate that there has been as much as a 66% increase in depression in people who regularly use social media. 66% increase. Since the smartphone was introduced, there has been a 65% increase in the suicide rate in girls between the ages of 8 and 12. Yeah. Instagram is driving anxiety. Kids with smartphones are getting one less hour of sleep at night than their peers who don't go to bed with their phones near them. 62% of teenagers say that they have received a nude image on their phone, and 40% say that they have sent one. Wow. Now, it doesn't just stop there. I don't know if you know this or not, but we are fighting and we are battling an algorithm. Okay? Now, many of you have experienced this and you may not even know it. But how many of you have been talking about something or whatever you've been thinking, you know what, I think we should take a vacation to North Dakota. And, I hear North Dakota is a great place to be. And you know what, there's a lot of neat things in North Dakota. Well, what happens the next time you get on your phone? Vacation rentals in North Dakota. You're like, what? What? There's an algorithm that listens to what we're doing and watches what we do. It is designed to keep you online, and it is designed to keep your attention. It notices how long you pause on certain things. We just scroll through things, you just scroll, just kind of look dumb, and then you stop and you hover over something. When you hover over something for a minute, the algorithm starts to pick it up. And it says, oh, they like this. They're interested in that, and you're going to get more of that content, even if you don't click on it. It notices how long you last and how long you linger on that information. And it begins to send you more and more similar content. Recently, there was a pastor who posted on Twitter that his TikTok feed was nothing but women dressed indecently and dancing. And someone replied to his tweet, "It's an algorithm, you idiot. The reason your feed is full of that is because that's what you're watching." And so what this does is this creates a sense that everyone's doing what you're doing because it's tailor-made to you. So if you pause on something like vacation in North Dakota and you get all this stuff about vacation in North Dakota, it's all geared towards you. And you're going to start thinking everybody's going on vacation in North Dakota when nobody goes on vacation in North Dakota. Okay? But you think it is because that's what you begin to see. And no matter what topic it is, when you do that, it starts flooding. So if you take a political stance on something, you start clicking certain websites, you're going to start to believe that everybody agrees with you politically. Look, my whole feed is full of people who agree with me. No, it's not. It's an algorithm. We are fighting an algorithm. And this is how your kids find themselves pressured to experiment sexually and with drugs because of this algorithm. So what do? Ephesians chapter 5, beginning of verse 15 says this, so be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. We need to be smart with how we deal with these glowing rectangles in our lives and how we deal with them in the lives of our children as well. So there's a couple things that we can do when it comes to technology. And these are listed on your program as well. They would typically be up on the screens, but we thought, hey, we're going to kind of tone things down this week. The first way that we can respond to technology is we can just reject it. And we've talked a little bit about this in the parenting class. I've changed the terms a little bit, but we can just reject it. Some of you just say, just forget it. I'm Amish now. Okay? I'm not doing it. Everybody throw your phone. I'm getting a flip phone that only dials 911 and my mom. That's it. Okay? Great. You can do that. Okay? And you say, social media is bad. We're not going to participate in it. Okay? Or maybe you say, not now, but later. We're going to grow into this or whatever. And I hear a lot of parents who say, man, I'm so frustrated. My kid's on their phone all the time. Guess what? You can take it away. It's not their phone unless they're paying the bill. Sorry. If you're paying the bill, it's your phone. You're letting them borrow it. They need to be very aware of that. And some of you are like, man, that's all they do. Is they're just on their phone all the time. Is that what they see you doing? Are you on your phone all the time? Are they modeling their behavior that they're seeing from you? Now hear me, and this is hard to hear, but just a percentage of people that are in this room right now, some of your kids are going to wrestle with anxiety, depression, self-harm, low self-esteem, and potentially explicit content. They're going to experience that on social media or through some other technology platforms. So you might need to make a tough call today that will ultimately lead to a better tomorrow. You might need to do that. So maybe you reject technology. Some of us, though, we just receive it. It's great. It is what it is. Yay, let's use it. You recognize how good social media is. There's a lot of good things about it. Okay? And I've said this before. I've said this in the parenting class. I've said it here. The internet and technology is amoral. It's neither good or bad on its own. It's how the user operates it that makes it good or bad. Social media is kind of cool. I get to know when people's birthdays are. I get to see what people I went to high school with had for breakfast. I mean, how cool is that? You know? I would have missed that whole aspect of their life had I not been on social media. I get to see how some of you travel and get to experience things. And I get joy from your joy when you share those things. There's some good things that happen there. There really are. But if we're always connected to it and we never shut it off, we're going to have problems. Or finally, we can take this idea of we're just going to redeem it. We're going to redeem technology. We can leverage it as a force for God, which you can. We use technology here and that. I try to use my own personal social media accounts as something that's just positive or fun or funny or whatever. You're not going to see me posting my political beliefs or what I think about this or that, all that kind of stuff. Why stir up controversy on something that doesn't need to be there? Okay? That doesn't matter. I want people to read my post or look forward to it. And I wonder what Chad's going to post today. I always laugh. I always get a smile from it. I always learn something from it. That's what I want. I don't want to say, hey, what's he going to get us arguing about today? That's not what I want. So I'll just let you know, in my family, in the Goucher family, we've probably done all three of these things at different times. We've probably rejected it at different times. Everybody just throw your phones away. We're tired of it. Turn them off, throw them away. I know we've done that at different times. We've received it. We've tried to redeem it. It's just been stage of life and circumstances and things have dictated that. It's challenging. And it's an ebb and flow. And I wish I could just say, hey, do these things, 1, 2, 3, and everything will be great, but I can't do that. This is a tension we have to live in and that we need to struggle with. But here's the big deal that these things do. I think that the thing that they hurt us with more than anything is how much time they consume. How much time is consumed by us doing this? Do you know how many people now are suffering chronic neck pain and eye problems because of this? They sit like this with their head down and their eyes on a screen like this. Eyes go bad and your neck hurts. It's physical problems we're causing ourselves. So how do we battle time? And what does this look like? Well, we got to understand how time works and the value of time. And here's some way I want to explain this to you. In the way that we deal with our children and the way that we deal with relationships. Time over time equals history. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. If you lose time with your child, with a friend, with a spouse or whatever, if you lose time with them because they're invested in a device or you're invested in a device, you're not going to have the history with them that you need in order to be a consultant later. You're just not. It's just like you're just going to grow apart. You're going to disconnect. You're not going to have that. Time over time equals history. You want history together. Love over time equals worth. If you lose time to your child, they will never have a true sense of their worth because they're going to get their worth and their value from what they perceive on social media. They will never see themselves through your eyes or through God's eyes. They will see themselves through the lens of social media, and they will always fall short. You know why? Because they compare what they know about themselves to what they perceive about someone else. And that's what we do, all of us on social media. We know the areas that we struggle in, and we see things on social media, and we think everybody else has got it figured out. When that's total bull. It's not. How many pictures, how many selfies do you take until you get the one you're actually going to post? Okay? It's not the right one, or whatever. And people stage that stuff. But we take it as real. And that's what our kids are doing. So love over time shows our kids worth. And love is most powerful over time and not in these big, like, grandiose moments. Don't wait to love your kids when you go on vacation. Okay? And the thing that breaks my heart more than anything is to have children who are in, they come from broken homes and they live with one parent and the other parent then just kind of swoops in occasionally and they take them to the zoo and Disneyland and all this kind of stuff and then they leave again. And it's like, oh, this is the fun parent, but then this is one that has to discipline all the time. And there's animosity and there's tension in that. But I just want to encourage you who are staying home with the kids and you're doing the hard stuff, love over time is more powerful than these grandiose moments, and your kids will know it. Love over time equals worth. Words over time equals direction. If you lose control of time with your kids, you're not going to be able to guide them when you are no longer in control. If you're not having conversations with them now, they are not going to come to you when the things of life happen later. If they can't have simple conversations with you now, they are not going to have difficult conversations with you later. I'm sorry, that's what it is. Stories over time equal perspective. If you lose time with your child, you lose the ability to give them perspective, memories. It helps them see the bigger picture. And they will see your words as controlling instead of being a wise consultant in those moments. Man, don't you remember when we did that? Remember how that worked out? Boy, we shouldn't have done that, should we? That was awful. Or man, that was great. You remember that? Stories over time equals perspective. They learn. They remember those things. Tribe over time equals belonging. We could use the word circles. Your circle is important. And the longer they have a better tribe or circle, the greater sense of belonging that they will have. Because what's going to happen is, when they feel connected to the tribe, they're going to spend a whole lot more time trying to impress you instead of unnamed faces on some social media site. And a child with a strong sense of belonging will not spend all of their time trying to fit in. You know why? Because they already have a significant place where they fit in and they're loved and they're accepted. Tribe is important. Tribe over time equals belonging. Fun over time equals connection. If you don't have time, you're not going to have fun. And if you do not have fun with your kids, you will not have deep and meaningful connection with them. I want you to know, in the Goucher household, we take fun serious. Okay? It is a big deal. Okay? 9:30 last night, my wife, Melissa, and Presley and I were playing Mario Kart at 9:30 last night. At 9:35, I wanted to throw the controller through the TV screen and run from the room because I was so angry at those cheaters. They cheat so bad. And I told Presley and my mom, Presley and Melissa, I just got to go to bed. I have to preach tomorrow, and my heart right now is not in the right place. I need to get holy in that, and you pagans just do whatever you want, okay? You pagans, but I'm just going to go get right with God, and you guys just keep having your fun, okay? We take fun serious in our house. We do. You need to have some planned fun, and you need to have some spontaneous fun in your life. And here's the problem, though. We don't manage our time with our children and our families well. And here's why, because we don't have a grasp of time. So I'm going to show you what time looks like. Okay? From the time your child begins kindergarten until the time they graduate high school, 13 years. It's 13 years. 4,745 days. 113,880 hours is how much time you have with your child from the time they begin kindergarten until the time they graduate high school. Okay? Now, on average, they sleep 8 hours a day. Okay? Right? That adds up to 37,960 hours, or 1,581 days they spend sleeping. That's represented by 1,581 green jelly beans right here. This is how many days that your child spends sleeping between the time they go to kindergarten and they graduate from high school. Okay? This is just average. It's not a blanket statement. It's average. Okay? The blue jar represents miscellaneous things they do. They go to school, they have a job, extracurricular activities, all that kind of stuff. Adds up to 9.2 hours per day. Over the course of that period of time, 42,750 hours, or 1,781 days. Work, school, eating, miscellaneous things that they do, activities that they're involved in, all that kind of stuff. That's why they do this. The yellow, based on 5 hours a day of phone time, which is extremely conservative because most adolescents right now are spending more than 7 hours a day on their device. But let's just say 5 hours for the sake of this experiment here. 5 hours a day, that equals 23,725 hours, or 988 days that your child spends on their phone from the time they start kindergarten until they graduate high school. This red jar represents the amount of days they spend at church. The average person goes to church 1.8 times a month. That equals 1.5 hours a week. Okay, and what that translates to, 21.6 weekends a year, or 17 total days. 17 days. This is what our phone gets. This is what church gets. And we wonder why we struggle. We wonder what's wrong. Here's the problem. And this is the big takeaway. This is not on your notes, but I would encourage you to write this down. And it's this. We are in danger right now. We are in huge danger. We have to be careful because we are in danger of outsourcing our children's discipleship to a device. Man, I want my kids to be godly. Everybody would say, oh, yeah, I just want to have good kids. Well, I'll tell you what, I want godly kids. There's a difference, okay? This doesn't get it done. So we have to prioritize things. And we have to make sure that we're modeling that for them. So are we coming to church 1.8 times a month? We don't prioritize a life group. We don't prioritize serving. But yet we want our kids to, because we believe that'll lead them to a place of betterness in life. But we don't model that for them. And we wonder why they lean on this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, beginning of verse 23, the Apostle Paul writes this: "You say, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for you. You say, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. Don't be concerned for your own good, but for the good of others." Can you get on social media? Absolutely, you can. You can. You're allowed to. But it's not always beneficial. And we need to determine when it's not beneficial. And when it's not beneficial, we need to lay it down. Not only for our own good, but for the good of the others around us. Don't be concerned for your own good, but for the good of the others. Your children are watching you. And they will take what you do a lot further than what you say. So here's what we're going to do. We want to set an example, and I'm going to give you a challenge. We're not going to hashtag this one this week because we want you to turn your technology off. But on the back of this page, you'll see some challenges. And I'm going to challenge you this. I would encourage you for 2 nights this week, Monday through Friday night, you turn all of your devices off from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Turn them off. Everybody turn them off together. And here's some ideas of some things that you can do. Some of you may want to do it 3 times. That's fine. I would encourage you highly not to go home today and say, Pastor Chad said this, we're shutting it all off. Don't put that on me, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? You got to ease into this, especially when you haven't been doing it before. But turn it off for a while. Have some of these conversations. Begin to plant some roots. Begin to develop some new patterns. And I promise you this, students, if you do this and you participate with your parents in this week, you will like your parents better at the end of the week. I promise. Parents, you will like your students better at the end of the week. I promise. Because we're designed for community. And when we live in healthy community together, everybody gets better. Everybody gets better. So that's my challenge to you. 2 nights this week, turn it off, 6 to 8. Put your phones on the wherever, hide them, lock them in the safe, put them in the car, lock the door, whatever you have to do. Get them away. You say, hey, for the next couple hours, we're going to do this. And what you're going to find is that 2 hours is probably not going to be enough. You're going to find that. You're going to find that you really like each other, and you're going to rediscover some things about each other that are truly helpful and beneficial. Let's be better. God, we just thank you for the way that you show up in our lives. We thank you for the way that you always give us your word to guide and direct us. Give us the courage to do it. Give us the courage to follow it. So God, right now, we just turn this over to you. It's a big deal. It's difficult. There's no cut and dry answers. We have to live and learn in this area of technology. But help us to be wise. Help us to live as wise, not as those who are foolish. God, we don't want to outsource our discipleship to a device. The stakes are too high. It's too important. Impress that on our hearts. As we etch your words on the tablet of our hearts, may those things just spring from us in the times when we need them the most. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.